elements of luck in choosing directions in your life. When I was growing up, I remember talking regularly with only three adults about books and authors. My dad and I talked about Ernest Hemingway. Um, my aunt and I, here's a picture of my aunt, um, we talked about James Joyce and Ulysses. Ulysses was her favorite book. My mom read popular novels. As a teen and adult, my mom gave me Michael Crichton's The Andromeda Strain, Stephen King's Carrie, Robin Cook's Coma, Tom Clancy's The Hunt for Red October, John Grisham's The Firm, and John Denning's The Holland's Suggestions. It's about books, novels across 30 years. um, Never talked with her about Carrie or The Firm because I didn't finish reading them. They didn't hold my attention. But I was impressed by Robin Cook. He became a practicing medical doctor and wrote best-selling novels on the side. And I also became impressed with what Earl Stanley Gardner and John Grisham had done, become a practicing lawyer and write best-selling novels on the side. I accomplished that. So, The Luck Factor by Max Gunther has elements in that 1977 book similar to more recent books, Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers and Matthew, I don't know his name's pronounced, Said Bounce. So Matthew became a top journalist writer. He's written a lot of magazine pieces and several books, but he also was twice a member of his country's Olympic team in table tennis. He explains in his book Bounce that he lucked into it. He happened to live, when he was growing up, happened to live on the block where the world's top table tennis coach lived. Was a neighbor, and at the end of the block was a 24/7 table tennis club. It might be the only one in the world. And Matthew's older brother started playing table tennis there. It was locked sometimes, but guess what? They gave these kids a key so they could get in there and play table tennis. So Matthew eventually became the best player in his country. He was on the Olympic team. Now, I'm going to go back and just in case you don't know who Ernest Hemingway is, go over, here's one, The Sun Also Rises, published 1926. Here's a sentence. I took the trout ashore, washed them in the cold, smoothly heavy water above the dam, and then picked some ferns and packed them all in the bag. 3 trout on a layer of ferns, and then another layer of ferns, then 3 more trout, then covered them with ferns. He's been fishing. The main character of the book, Jake Barnes. And this, The Sun Also Rises, is basically considered a historical world treasure. It changed the way people write and how did Hemingway write? He wrote just like he did when he was a reporter on the Kansas City Star. Long sentences are fine, as long as they're clear. And there's James Joyce's Ulysses, my aunt's favorite book. And old Barlow, the mace bearer, laid up with asthma. No mace on the table, nothing in order, no quorum even. And Hutchison, the Lord Mayor, in Llandudno, and little Lorcan Sherlock doing locum tenens for him. He was acting as a physician for another physician in the physician's absence. Ulysses, also considered a great world masterpiece. Here's one that's not considered a great world masterpiece, but I like it and my mom liked it. And here's a sentence. All these are about, 30 to 40% in the book, according to Kindle. The Andromeda Strain. Tests involve decisions in 10 scenario contexts with pre-structured alternatives. Drawn up by Walter Reed Psychiatric Division after in-order test analysis by Biostatistics Unit, NIH Bethesda. If that doesn't make any sense to you, well, it does in context. And it's supposed to sound like that. I'm going to later do a video about Kothar the Barbarian by Gardner Fox. Fox is better known for writing, creating the Justice League of America and the Justice Society of America, and many of its characters, Hawkman and the Flash. So my dad told me when Hemingway died back in '61, so I'm old enough to remember that. And it was reported that Hemingway died from an accidental shotgun discharge. That's what was initially reported. My dad thought that was suspicious. Now, we knew it could happen. A relative of ours accidentally shot himself in the abdomen with a shotgun while crossing through a barbed wire fence. Fortunately, he was with other hunters and they rushed him to a hospital and he survived. We later watched a football game with him. Now, accidental shotgun blast shouldn't happen, but they do. So it was a suicide. Anyway, we talked about Hemingway, his career as a writer, and his books. Now, my aunt owned bookstores. There's my aunt, Verna Carter, Oklahoma City. She owned bookstores there. She introduced me to writers who came in, including Dwight Swain. She had more than one. This wasn't her only location. She was a dedicated, avid fan of James Joyce and James Joyce's writing. I became exposed to all his writing. I have not finished Ulysses or Finnegan's Wake. I've read Dubliners, and I think I finished Portrait of a Young Man, or The Artist as a Young Man. Of course, I've read Andromeda Strain, never finished Carrie, didn't hold my attention. Read and reread Coma, read and reread Hunt for October, never finished The Firm. Read and reread Holland's Suggestions, and actually exchanged several emails with John Dunnings. I believe he's passed on, but we got along well. So this guy, Matthew, he explains in his book, luck, bounce is he was lucky. I mean, he had a coach and a table tennis club that he had 24/7 access to on his block. He ended up being on the Olympic team in table tennis. Now, he didn't make any money from that. He made money from writing, but he had luck. Now, I had luck. I had parents and an aunt who were avid readers and liked talking about authors, writers, and their works. So I grew up that way. Um, Now, here I'm talking about when I'm 8 years old. That's me. 8 years old. I am a Cub Scouts. Cub Scouts, oh, USA. So I'm in the third grade, 8-year-old Cub Scout. Each scout was given a thick bundle, fundraising tickets wrapped with a rubber band, shown on a map where our area was. And we were to knock on every door and ask them to buy these tickets. These were for a fundraising bean dinner ticket at the church where we had our Cub Scout meetings. So let's see, what was I there? I think that's a wolf clan. There's different animals, and that means different things. Or it meant then. I don't know what the deal is now. So when I had to do that, I didn't want to do it, but my dad gave me a salesmanship class, pumped me up, full of positive mental attitude. And we rehearsed what I was to do. We rehearsed sales and we rehearsed the rejections. Said, I'm going to get a lot of rejections. So I didn't put this in the piece I wrote for Substack, but first we did 2 or 3 where I ended up with sales. And then I said, the next one's going to be most of them. So did what I'd always done on the previous rehearsals. I walked out to the sidewalk, walked up the driveway, didn't walk on the grass, and smiled, knocked on the door, and started to, went through my spiel, who I am, what I'm doing, and would they be interested in buying tickets. And my own dad, said no and slammed the door in my face, and I got tears in my eyes. And he said, okay, son, that's going to happen to you. This is an inoculation. You have a taste of it. Now what you do is you turn around and you walk out to the sidewalk just the same way you came in, and you go to the next door and do the same thing. Because that's going to happen to you most of the time. You're going to get the door slammed in your face. So, through the rest of my life, that was a good lesson. Most things were negative. Even my book was rejected by 16 people. I first contacted literary agents, 8 of them. True crime. They're going to love it, right? No. All 8 that I applied to turned me down. So then I started sending letters directly, and it was letters. They didn't accept, this is before the change to accepting email. And so anyway, book acquisition editors said no. And eventually, though it did sell, and New York Times bestsellers, number 4, Nightmare in Wichita by Robert Beatty. I'm behind Malcolm Gladwell. I'm ahead of Eric Larson. And this guy here, whatever happened to him? Dreams of My Father by Barack Obama. Way down here, 15th, and he complained nobody came to his book signings. So this is at a Borders Books, which doesn't exist anymore, right inside the front door. That's what they wanted, my book seen first. So I was lucky also, not only family, but my ninth grade English teacher, Bruce Cowdery. He required me to write for submission. I started writing to submission. 17 did not hire me, but Teen Talk did. For the Wichita Beacon evening newspaper. Robert Beatty, Teen Talk. And this was my last published column, 1974. So you have a lot of people read whatever I write are writers or want to be more successful writers. I had commercial success. My book was adapted into a movie, CBS, Sony, and just got to be persistent. So look at, maybe it's not writing that you've got some good luck in, some background. Maybe it's engineering or English or middle management or marketing, but you've got some advantage wherever it is, and you can pursue that. Good luck to you.